America's greatest gridiron tradition is captured in the latest Notre Dame video classic, the Notre Dame Collectors Series, a 2-volume set that chronicles Notre Dame's climb to its last 4 national championships. Relive the excitement of the 1966 and 1973 titles under Ara Parsegian, as well as the action-packed championship years with Dan Devine and Lou Holtz. The greatest moments in Notre Dame football are now yours in the Collectors Series video set. To order, call 1-800-488-3883.
Hello everyone, I'm Jeff Jeffers. The first Notre Dame football game ever played occurred in 1887 when a group of students from the University of Michigan took the train to South Bend to help introduce the sport to students here on the Notre Dame campus. That contest ended 8-0 in favor of the guests from Michigan. After the contest, the Michigan players were fed, they got back on the train and returned to Ann Arbor. The football lesson was learned quite well. Notre Dame was successful in football during the early years, then became nationally known under Coach Knute Rockne. It is somewhat ironic that it was during Rockne's worst season ever that he spoke the lines that have become as famous as any words associated with sport. We begin our look at the greatest comeback victories in Notre Dame football history as the Irish win one for the Gipper.
Rockne's first team had a record of 3-1-2. Only 6 games were played because of the United States' involvement in World War I. After the 1918 season, the Irish under Rockne went 75-7-2 until 1928. In that year, Notre Dame split its first 4 games, then won the next 2. The 7th game was the traditional contest against Army. The Cadets had won 6 straight games and were led by consensus All-America Chris Cagle. The 1928 Irish squad was not without talent, but Rockne had had almost a complete turnover of players from the 1927 squad. A record of 4-2 with 3 games remaining would hardly be cause for criticism, but Rockne was receiving more than his fair share. Had he lost his touch? Was the magic gone? But the coach was also a master in the use of psychology, and Rockne had a plan. None of the players in the Notre Dame locker room personally knew George Gipp, but all were aware of what he had done for Notre Dame. Gipp was the first glamour player for Notre Dame. He did everything one could possibly do on a football field and do it effortlessly. He led Notre Dame in scoring, passing, and rushing from 1918 through 1920. Yet for all of Gipp's excellence on the field, it was what happened in December of 1920 that has made him a permanent part of American sports history. 2 weeks after being named to Walter Camp's All-America team, Gipp came down with strep throat. The medical advances that seem commonplace today in treating such a condition were merely ideas in the 1920s. On December 14th, George Gipp died at St. Joseph's Hospital in South Bend. His coach was at his bedside. Nearly 8 years later, in the visitors' locker room at Yankee Stadium, Rockne recalled what Gipp had said. The players were told that Gipp had made a last request of his coach. According to Rockne, Gipp knew the end was near. "I've got to go, Rock, but it's all right. I'm not afraid. Sometime, Rock, when the team is up against it, when things are wrong and the breaks are beating the boys, tell them to go in there with all they've got and win just one for the Gipper. I don't know where I'll be then, Rock, but I'll know about it, and I'll be happy." Rockne told his team that Gipp had specifically asked for a win over Army. That day had come, and this was the team. Notre Dame did not go out and whip Army. In fact, the Cadets held a 6-0 lead in the third quarter. Jack Chevigny tied the score with a 1-yard plunge. As he was pulled to his feet, Chevigny reportedly shouted, "That's one for the Gipper." But the Irish would need one more. Chevigny was injured as Notre Dame was moving the ball in the last quarter. Bill Drew went into the game for the injured running back, and Johnny O'Brien replaced John Colrick at left end. O'Brien was a track man at Notre Dame and had never seen action for the football team. With the ball on Army's 32-yard line, left halfback Butch Nimmick heaved the ball toward the end zone. O'Brien made the catch on the 10 and took it in for the winning touchdown. O'Brien and the Irish had scored another for the Gipper. As the Irish celebrate, Chris Cagle returns the kickoff 55 yards. He has played the entire game and now lies exhausted at the 10. He has to be carried from the field. Army pushes the ball to the 1 before time expires, and Notre Dame is victorious. To this day, many fans of Army football believe the officials in the game were also caught up in the spirit of Rockne and George Gipp. Final score, Notre Dame 12, Army 6.
There always have been and always will be questions, even to this day, as to the absolute truth concerning Rockne and his Gipper speech. The deathbed scene was the highlight of the movie New Rockne All-American. Pat O'Brien played Rockne and Ronald Reagan portrayed George Gipp. And throughout his life, the 40th President of the United States was more than happy to once again play the Gipper. What happened to the Irish of 1928? The next week, Carnegie Tech beat Notre Dame in South Bend. That was the first home loss at Cartier Field since 1905. And USC finished off the season trouncing Notre Dame in Los Angeles on December 1st. But the next year, Notre Dame went 9-0 and claimed the national title. And as for the words of George Gipp, they remain an indelible presence here on the wall of the Irish locker room at Notre Dame Stadium. A reminder of what happens when the team believes in the spirit of Notre Dame. Notre Dame was the only school where New Rockne coached. But as author Murray Sperber relates in his book, Shake Down the Thunder, many other schools constantly courted the Irish coach, and Rockne loved the attention. From Loyola in California to Minnesota to Columbia in New York City, Rockne was the hottest ticket when a coaching vacancy occurred. One school that went hard after Rockne was the Ohio State University, and for a time, the attraction was mutual. Rockne, though, decided to stay at Notre Dame, build a new stadium, and continue the excellence of the program. But the era of Rockne ended on March 31st, 1931, when he died in a plane crash.
The university elevated Hunk Anderson from an assistant coaching job to the head coaching position. Anderson coached 2 years, then gave way to Elmer Layden. The fullback of the famed four-horseman backfield reached the pinnacle of his coaching tenure on November 2nd, 1935, when the Irish journeyed to Columbus to take on the Buckeyes. This was the game for which Notre Dame fans had long awaited. Ohio State was a juggernaut and had throttled each opponent. The coach of the Buckeyes, Francis Schmidt, was nicknamed Francis Close the Gates of Mercy Schmidt due to his team's dominance. For 45 minutes at the famed Horseshoe Stadium, the game teetered on being a rout in favor of the Scarlet Scourge. 81,000 fans see the Buckeyes jump to a 13-0 lead after 3 quarters. But in the final 15 minutes, Notre Dame plays a quarter of football that is remembered to this very day. After scoring to begin the fourth quarter, the Irish defense holds and the offense is again moving the ball. But Steve Miller fumbles in the end zone and the Buckeyes recover. Now Ohio State marches down the field, eating up precious time and yardage concurrently. With 3 minutes remaining in the game, Notre Dame begins an 80-yard drive. Andy Pilney begins to gain chunks of yardage on the ground. He then passes to Mike Layden, the brother of the Irish coach, for a 33-yard score. The extra point is missed again. Ohio State 13, Notre Dame 12. Notre Dame tries an onside kick, but Ohio State recovers. All the Buckeyes need to do is run out the remaining time on the clock, and the highly partisan crowd would leave happy. Dick Belts runs the ball into the Irish line off right tackle, but fumbles. In 1935, the team that touches the ball last before it goes out of bounds gains possession. Notre Dame now has the ball in the Buckeyes' 49. The crowd is becoming frantic. Irish fans, their emotion bottled for nearly the entire day, sense the ultimate comeback. The Buckeye faithful is now tied in a collective knot as the OSU defense is back on the field. Pilney retreats to throw, but no receiver is open. He heads upfield on a tremendous broken field run. Ohio State forces him out of bounds on the 19. Pilney remains down. He suffers torn cartilage on the play in his knee and is carried to the Irish sideline. Bill Shakespeare comes into the game with 30 seconds remaining. His surname and the drama that will surround him is not lost on the horde of national media that is on hand to cover the game. Shakespeare throws for the score, but the ball heads straight for Dick Belts. The Ohio State player who fumbled the ball earlier now drops a sure interception that would have iced the game for OSU. Layden shuttles in another quarterback. It's Jim McKenna. He got to Columbus by sneaking on the team train. He had no ticket for the game and talked his way into the Irish locker room. Layden let him suit up, but McKenna forgot to bring shoulder pads. McKenna takes the play to the Notre Dame huddle. Shakespeare fires another pass toward Wayne Milner. The All-America has drawn single coverage and the ball is perfectly thrown. Milner makes the catch and the comeback is complete. 18-13 after the extra point is missed. Irish fans pour out of the stands to congratulate their team. The 5-point comeback win will be tabbed as the first of many games of the century.
There's a tangible reminder of that November afternoon in Columbus right here on the Notre Dame campus. Here behind Alumni Hall on the South Quad stands a tree with special significance. It's a Buckeye tree and it's still growing strong, as is the memory of the win over Ohio State in 1935. In terms of wins and losses, the high-water mark of Notre Dame football so far had to be the years immediately after World War II. The Frank Leahy victory machine compiled a 4-year mark of 36 wins, no losses, and 2 ties from 1946 through 1949. The class of 1950 at Notre Dame never saw their Irish lose from the time they were freshmen right through their senior season. But one game nearly did end up in the loss column. If there has ever been one school that has burst the bubble of the Irish faithful time and time again, it's been Purdue. The Boilermakers' history is speckled with huge upsets of highly favored Notre Dame squads. And the Irish team of 1948 seemed ripe as it opened the season against the black and gold.
Much of the nucleus from the national championship teams of 1946 and 47 was intact for the 1948 campaign. Frank Tripucka would replace Heisman winner Johnny Lujack at quarterback. All-America linemen George Connor and Ziggy Zarobski were gone, but the majority of players from the 46 and 47 title teams were back for Frank Leahy. On a beautiful day before an overflow crowd at Notre Dame Stadium, the Irish go to the air early as Tripucka hits in Jim Martin for 25 yards to the Purdue 4. Emil Sitko scores for the Irish. The try is missed. 6-0 Notre Dame. Tripucka's sleight of hand in the backfield pays off as John Pinelli goes around the left end for 25 yards to the Purdue 6. Sitko scores again. It's 12-0. The extra point is again unsuccessful. The crowd is used to the Irish jumping to a lead, and today seems no different than many others since Leahy returned to alma mater. But Boilers quarterback Bob DeMoss is on target and leads his team right up the field. From 20 yards away, DeMoss connects with Neil Adams. The try is successful. It's 12-7 Irish at halftime. Purdue continues to use the momentum in the third quarter as Bob Agnew scores on a short burst through the left side. Notre Dame is now in an unusual position. Notre Dame trails, if only by a point, 13-12. The Boilers hold Notre Dame and drive to the Irish 35, where coach Stu Holcomb decides to punt. But Jim Martin's long right arm deflects the ball. Pinelli grabs the ball and breaks out of the crowd of players. He's free and has a phalanx of teammates escorting him to the goal. It's now 18-13 as Steve Aracco misses the extra point. Notre Dame's Mike Swistowicz intercepts DeMoss deep in Purdue territory. The Irish settle for 3 as Aracco's 33-yard field goal is true. 21-13 Notre Dame. DeMoss fades again to throw and links up with Neil Schmidt for 55 yards before Terry Brennan makes the tackle at the 11. DeMoss eventually scores on a sneak. It's 21-20 Notre Dame. The Irish look for more through the air, but Ken Gorgel intercepts Tripucka at the Boiler 5 to thwart the Notre Dame drive. Leon Hart, who would go on to win the Heisman in 1949, deflects a DeMoss pass at the 5, and reserve lineman Aus Majewski takes it in for the easy touchdown. Aracco finally converts on the try. It's 28-20 Notre Dame. From the far left side of the field, Purdue heads to the right and throws back to the left corner of the end zone. Swistowicz is called for pass interference. The ball is on the 1 for the Boilers. DeMoss waggles to the right and throws back to the left, where Harley Jeffrey takes it in for the touchdown. It's 28-27 as the gun sounds, ending the game. Notre Dame went on to win every game in 48 except the last one in Los Angeles. USC and the Irish fought to a 14-14 tie.
"1975 had to be one of the more remarkable seasons in Notre Dame football history for just about every reason, both positive and negative. Ara Parseghian resigned after the 74 campaign and was replaced by Dan Devine. And Devine had to start his coaching career with one of the most difficult tasks ever. The opening game was against Boston College on the road. It was moved to accommodate national TV. The Irish defeated the Eagles on September 15th. 5 days later, Notre Dame was back on the road taking on Purdue, a team that had defeated the Irish in 74. But Devine's team won at Ross-Age Stadium 17-0. 5 days into the season, Notre Dame was already 2-0. But even the most optimistic Irish fans were not prepared for what happened in the middle of October.
A two-game road trip would see Notre Dame travel first to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, then to the Air Force Academy. There were restrictions on the size of travel squads in 1975, so Notre Dame would have to battle the heat and humidity of Carolina, then regroup for the altitude of Colorado Springs within the space of a week. The Tar Heels had been a popular Irish opponent, having played 15 games. Notre Dame held a record of 14-1 heading into the October 11th contest. In the first half, there was really only one scoring threat. Freshman Jerome Evans of Notre Dame breaks free on a 52-yard run into Tar Heel territory. But the Irish are not able to capitalize on the effort, fumbling away the opportunity. In the third quarter, Carolina's outstanding back, Mike Voigt, scores from 12 yards out. Then the Heels strike through the air as quarterback Billy Pascal finds Mel Collins behind the secondary for another Tar Heel touchdown. Notre Dame trails 14-0. Irish quarterback Rick Slager brings his team back upfield, hitting wingback Mark McClain for a 13-yard gain. Al Hunter scores the first Notre Dame touchdown as he follows Al Wojak's block into the end zone. The Irish go for two, but the try fails. Notre Dame's defense hangs tough. Linebacker Jim Stock comes through with a sack for the loss of 9 as the Irish get the ball back. Joe Montana enters the game at quarterback and strikes quickly. He airs the ball down the right side for a 42-yard connection to Dan Kelleher. Notre Dame now has the ball in the Carolina 2. Hunter scores again, and Montana goes to tight end Doug Booth for the two-point conversion. The game is tied. 1 minute, 3 seconds remain in the game. The ball is on the Notre Dame 20. Montana throws to receiver Ted Bergmeyer, who turns to catch the ball. He breaks one tackle, then another. Amazingly, he's now free. Bergmeyer will not be caught, and the Irish win 21-14. A trip to the Rampart Range of the Rockies awaits the Irish a week later. Air Force has a 3-0 lead when Falcons quarterback Mike Warden scores on a 16-yard run. Jerome Evans gets great blocking from Ed Bauer and Steve Quell and rolls for a nice gain. The Irish drive stalls and kicker Dave Reeve ekes through a 31-yard field goal. At half, Air Force leads by 10. To open the second half, Evans breaks free on a 54-yard scoring jaunt. It's the first touchdown of the game for Notre Dame, yet the Irish still trail by 3. The rest of the third quarter is dominated by the Falcons. Air Force scores 17 straight points, capped by Warden's 33-yard touchdown pass to Paul Williams. As the fourth quarter begins, Air Force leads Notre Dame 30-10. Can Montana rally his team again against such a big deficit in such a short amount of time? It doesn't take long for the answer to come. Montana finds tight end Ken McAfee for a 29-yard gain down the middle. The Irish nudge the ball toward the goal, and Montana options left side for the touchdown. It's 30-17 Air Force after Reeves' conversion. With time winding toward the 5-minute mark, Montana hits Mark McClain over the middle. The wingback leaves Falcon defenders all over the field and hightails it toward the goal line. He stopped on the 7 after a 60-yard gain. Devine and offensive coordinator Merv Johnson confer with Montana for the next play. It clicks for 6 as Montana finds McAfee in the end zone. 2 straight scores now make it a 6-point game, 30-24. After a 28-yard Falcon punt, Al Hunter comes through with a huge run. McLean leads the way as Hunter rips off a 44-yard sprint to the Air Force One. 2 plays later, Heavens bowls in for the score. Reeve kicks through the winner out of Slager's hold, and Notre Dame has the lead 31-30. The game ends at that score, and Montana has again performed magic.
Dan Devine's first team produced a record of 8-3. Not what a lot of Irish fans wanted, but certainly better than what might have happened if the comebacks against North Carolina and Air Force had not come to pass. The 1977 season began very rocky for the Irish. Many believed Notre Dame would walk to the national title, but Pittsburgh fell in a struggle 1910 at Pitt Stadium. Then Ole Miss ambushed the Irish in Jackson 2013. Notre Dame looked like anything but a national title contender after 2 weeks. The third game was on the road against Purdue, where the Boilermakers would unveil their latest quarterback star, Mark Herman.
Over 69,000 fans at Ross-Ade Stadium in West Lafayette see the Irish grab the lead at 14-10 as Rusty Lish finds Terry Urick for an 18-yard score. But Herman connects with Ray Smith on a 37-yard touchdown. Herman later adds another scoring toss, and Purdue leads 24-14 at the half. 3 first-half scores and 254 yards through the air are Herman's statistics for the first 2 quarters. Notre Dame scores to make it 24-17. Then Herman makes a critical mistake. He throws to his right side, but quarterback Luther Bradley makes the interception. Bradley heads down the sideline for an apparent score, but Herman just trips up Bradley at the Purdue 35. Montana is at quarterback and looks for Ken McAfee. He connects with the tight end for 22 yards. He then hits his favorite receiver for 13 yards and the score. After the Reeve conversion, the game is tied at 24. Over 4 minutes remain as Montana leads his team toward the winning score. The deciding points come when Dave Mitchell cradles the ball as he goes over the goal line. Final score, 31-24 Irish.
The wake-up call at Purdue would revive the Irish for the remainder of the season. USC would fall by 30 in the famous green jersey game, and the Irish would win the national title with a 38-10 victory over Texas in the Cotton Bowl. Montana and many of his teammates would return for the 78 season, and back-to-back titles were certainly possible, but it was not to be. After 2 weeks into the 78 campaign, the Irish were 0-2. Missouri upset Notre Dame at the stadium 3-0, and Michigan returned to the schedule with a 28-14 win also at Notre Dame Stadium. Then the Irish reel off 8 straight victories, and they're going after number 9 at the Coliseum against USC. The Trojans lead 24-6 when Montana rallies his team to lead 25-24. But a last-second field goal by Frank Jordan of the Trojans sends Notre Dame home with a crushing loss, 27-25. Notre Dame would face Houston in the 1979 Cotton Bowl with a record of 8-3.
The story of the game begins with the weather. An ice storm freezes the city of Dallas, knocking out power and making the game questionable. The artificial turf at the Cotton Bowl is glazed, providing no decent footing, and the wind chill is well below 0. After scoring 12 points, Notre Dame surrenders 20 in the first half. Houston now has to only play 30 more minutes for an easy win. Joe Montana battles hypothermia in the locker room of Notre Dame as he guzzles chicken soup in an attempt to raise his temperature. Houston adds 2 scores in the third quarter to make it 34-12. The conditions and the margin of the score would seem to preclude any chance of a comeback, no matter how courageous a team might be. With 7.5 minutes left in the third quarter, Irish freshman Steve Sitchie blocks a Cougar punt. Tony Belden catches the ball in a covey of players and breaks out. He heads for the end zone. Montana hits Vegas Ferguson for the 2-point conversion. Notre Dame trails 34-20. Montana adds another touchdown on a rollout run to the left. The 2-point try is good as Chris Haynes breaks his pattern and comes back for the ball. 34-28 Houston. 4 minutes, 22 seconds remain in the game. Cougar quarterback Danny Davis needs a first down to quiet the Irish crowd and regain momentum. He looks into the secondary and has Willie Adams open, but the ball is late and Dave Weimer somehow flips it away at the last moment. Houston has to punt. 2 minutes, 25 seconds remain. Montana takes the Irish to the Houston 36. Back to throw, he breaks out of the pocket and begins to run. The defensive pursuit catches up to the Irish quarterback. The ball is knocked to the turf. The Cougars recover. Now only a minute 50 is needed to be killed, and Houston will have the win. Notre Dame burns timeouts at 1:38 and 46 seconds left to play. It is 4th and 1 at the Houston 29. Houston coach Bill Yeoman goes for the first down. Davis slides the ball to Emmett King. King takes one step and is met helmet to helmet by freshman Joe Gramke. There is no gain. The Irish have the ball. 28 seconds remain. Notre Dame is 28 yards away from the goal. With no timeouts left, Montana gains 11 yards. On the next play, Montana hits Haynes for 10 more. Haynes applies a vicious forearm as he heads out of bounds. The fire is far from doused. 6 seconds remain. Montana tries to hit Haynes, but the pass is incomplete. 2 seconds show on the icicle-covered scoreboard. Montana takes the snap and fires for Haynes in the far right corner. Haynes catches the ball and cradles it to his chest. He lands inbounds for the touchdown. Time expires. The game is tied. All that is needed is the extra point. But in keeping with the theme of the day, that is also far from easy. Notre Dame is penalized for 5 yards as Dallas native Joe Eunice kicked through what appeared to be the winner. The placement must be tried again. Holder Greg Knaffel makes a good hold as the Cougars' rush is intense. Eunice somehow kicks the ball between the outstretched arms and punches it through. 35-34 Irish, and the game is over.
In the games against North Carolina and Air Force in 1975 and against Purdue in 77, Joe Montana was 19 of 26 through the air, accounting for 52 points in only about 15 minutes of action. He ended his career at Notre Dame in a game where the Irish scored 23 points in only 7 minutes and 37 seconds. Dan Devine announced on August 15, 1980 that the upcoming season would be his last. The second game of the 80 season was against Michigan at Notre Dame. Now, the Maize and Blue have won more college football games than any other Division I school. Notre Dame is second. Having started playing in 1887, Michigan began playing in 1879. After that group of Michigan students helped introduce the game of football to Notre Dame, the games between the schools were infrequent. In 1978, though, the series was renewed on a consistent basis for the first time since around the turn of the century. Michigan won at Notre Dame Stadium in 1978, while the Irish upset the Wolverines the next year in Ann Arbor. On September 20th, 1980, the teams would meet in South Bend for 60 minutes of football that is still debated among the two schools' fans to this day.
The Irish had opened the season with a 31-10 win over Purdue, avenging the 79 loss in West Lafayette. Michigan also won its opener, 17-10 over Northwestern, as Bo Schembechler undoubtedly wanted Notre Dame to see only the basic offense and defense. On the unseasonably warm day, football fans would be reminded that a complete team is not just offense and defense, but also the kicking game. After a scoreless first quarter, Notre Dame takes it in on a 6-yard run by Phil Carter. The Irish defense holds. Notre Dame scores again as Mike Corey hooks up with Pete Holohan for a 10-yard scoring strike. Michigan comes back to score on an 8-yard pass from John Wangler to Lawrence Ricks, and adds another touchdown just before half to tie the game at 14. The momentum gained by Michigan is not lost during halftime. One of the best to ever wear the winged helmet, Anthony Carter, breaks free on the second half kickoff and nearly goes all the way. Rod Bone makes the tackle, but the Wolverines are again fired up. Another touchdown makes it 21-14, Maize and Blue. Michigan has the ball in the Wolverines' 34 as Wangler looks for Carter. Cornerback John Krim has excellent coverage and breaks on the ball and makes the interception. 66 yards later, Krim is in the north end zone. Known for his punishing ground game, Bo Schembechler has been burned by looking for the quick strike through the air. The extra point would have tied the contest, but Harry Oliver misses. It's 21-20 Michigan. A fumble gives the ball back to the Irish, and Carter scores his second touchdown of the day behind a crushing block from Pete Buchanan. The two-point try fails. 26-21 Irish. Less than 3 minutes remain as Schembechler makes a great call, and running back Butch Woolfolk breaks free on a sprint draw. Tom Gibbons saves the touchdown, but the Maize and Blue is now inside the 5, ready to apply the clincher. The Irish put up a strong stand, and Wangler has to try and pass to score. His throw to the end zone goes off Woolfolk's hands, but tight end Craig Dunaway makes the catch for the score. Michigan goes for 2 points. The conversion is no good. It's now 27-26 Michigan. Devine puts freshman quarterback Blair Keel into the lineup and goes to the shotgun formation. Keel looks long for Tony Hunter right in front of the Michigan bench. Hunter leaps for the rainbow pass and receives contact for but an instant.
Hunter makes the grab. No, he lost the ball. Flag on the play. So there's going to be a flag on the play, and Schembechler's on the field.
It's enough to draw a flag for pass interference. Ball is heading to Michigan territory. Keel again finds Hunter in a quick outcut. Hunter nearly turns back into the field of play, but does step out of bounds. Time remains for one play. A long field goal from north to south into a breeze. The ball is on the right hash mark, and Harry Oliver, a left-footed kicker, comes in. Bill Seawee snaps the ball to Tim Cagle, who makes a perfect hold. Oliver explodes into the ball and scorches it toward the uprights. His aim is true, and he has just enough distance for the 51-yard field goal. One of the biggest kicks in Notre Dame Stadium history has the crowd on the field as Notre Dame beats Michigan 29-27.
The 1980 edition of the Irish posted a final record of 9-2-1, losing to the eventual national champion Georgia Bulldogs in the Sugar Bowl. Michigan won the Big Ten and represented the conference in the Rose Bowl, defeating the University of Washington in Pasadena. The years 1985 and 1986 are not that fondly remembered by Irish football fans. Notre Dame won 5-6 both seasons, but those years were dramatically different. 1985 was the final year in the tenure of Jerry Faust as head coach. 1986 was the first for Lou Holtz. Faust's final game was nothing short of a debacle. Miami pounded the Irish 58-7 in the Orange Bowl. Lou Holtz watched that game on TV and saw the work that needed to be done to put the Notre Dame program back among the nation's elite. The road was often rocky, especially during the '86 season. Michigan beat the Irish by a point at the stadium. Even with the loss, Notre Dame was ranked 20th the next week in the polls. Michigan State beat the Irish by 5, Pittsburgh by 1, Penn State by 5, and LSU by 2. The record, 4-6, as Notre Dame looked west and looked to USC.
The men of Troy were coached by Ted Tollner, who was not a favorite of many of the USC fans. One reason was the fact that the Irish had beaten Troy 3 consecutive seasons. Tollner was also following one of USC's most popular coaches ever, John Robinson. USC gets a 48-yard field goal on its first possession. But Irish defensive back Steve Lawrence intercepts Rodney Peete on the next series, and Notre Dame goes to work. Running backs Mark Green, Hiawatha Francisco, and Braxton Banks help move the ball down the field. Quarterback Steve Berline connects with Tim Brown for a 12-yard gain to the USC 1. Berline then finds tight end Andy Heck with a shot put pass for the score. The extra point attempt by John Carney is blocked. Notre Dame gets the ball back, but Berline throws the interception. That Lewis Brock, son of the Baseball Hall of Fame member, returns 58 yards for the score. 10-6 Trojans. Terry Anderzak replaces Berline, but Notre Dame cannot move and USC goes to the air. Pete goes deep to Lonnie White for a 53-yard gain. Leroy Holt scores on the next play at 17-6 USC. The teams trade field goals before halftime. John Carney hits on a 33-yarder, but Don Schaefer booms one through from 60 as time expires in the second quarter. USC has momentum and a 20-9 lead at half. Schaefer and Carney again connect in the third quarter. With a score 23-12 and just under 9 minutes remaining in the period, Pete engineers a 70-yard, 15-play drive. The Trojans use 11 minutes and 8 seconds to make it 30-12. Then, a harbinger of 1987 electrifies the Irish faithful in the Coliseum. Tim Brown returns Schaefer's kickoff 57 yards into USC territory. Berline connects with Banks out of the backfield for a 22-yard touchdown. Lou Holtz decides to go for the two-point conversion, and the Irish get it as Berline finds Milt Jackson for the deuce. It's now a 10-point game, 30-20 USC. But in the first series of the fourth quarter, Pete caps another Trojan scoring march by sneaking over from the 1. With just over 12 minutes remaining in the game, Notre Dame trails by 17. Berline, though, takes only 3 plays before he finds Jackson in the corner of the end zone for a 42-yard strike. Jackson makes a beautiful catch for the score. After a penalty for illegal motion, Carney connects on the PAT, 37-27 Trojans. Pete bleeds the clock and the yardage as he takes his team deep into Irish territory. On 4th and goal from the 5, Pete tries to sneak for a first down, which would make it goal to goal and doom Notre Dame. But Pete is stopped. A flag is thrown for unsportsmanlike conduct, and on the field where questionable calls have plagued the Irish for years, USC now knows the feeling. From his own 25, Berline connects with Brown for 49 yards to the USC 26-yard line. Eventually, Banks scores around the left end, and Berline finds Heck for the conversion. After trailing by 17 points to begin the quarter, Notre Dame now trails by 2. Tim Brown makes the catch of the kick at the Notre Dame 28. The 1987 Heisman Trophy winner then serpentines his way through the SC punt team until Spurls finally makes the tackle. The ball ends up at the Trojan 16. Two minutes, 15 seconds remain on the Coliseum clock. The Irish inch down to the 6, then to the 2. 2 seconds remain as John Carney is called on for victory or a head-shaking loss. Carney missed against Michigan, Pittsburgh, and LSU earlier in the season in key situations. The man who eventually will become one of pro football's best place kickers rips it through the uprights for a 38-37 Notre Dame victory.
It was later learned by those in the Coliseum that they were the only ones who actually see the kick as it occurred. CBS did not return to the game action from its commercial break in time to see the actual game winner. When one thinks of Notre Dame's traditional rivals in football, schools that immediately come to mind: Army, Navy, Purdue, Michigan State, Michigan, and of course USC. But from 1981 through 1992, there was another university added to the list of big-time rivals for the Irish. Penn State and Notre Dame are similar in several ways. Both recruit in similar regions of the country, both have large and extremely loyal followings of fans, and both are renowned for hard-nosed, smash-mouth power football. And no game better exemplified and symbolized the schools than the contest of November 14th, 1992.
After a tie versus Michigan and a loss to Stanford, Notre Dame successfully regroups and is on a roll. The final game of the 92 season will have everything befitting an old-time gridiron classic, including weather that will span the spectrum of every conceivable condition. Weather in South Bend turns unpredictable and oftentimes unforgiving as fall becomes winter, and that was never more apparent as Irish seniors run out of the tunnel for the final time. Notre Dame lost the previous two games to Joe Paterno's squad, and the Irish come out pumped. The Craig Hendrick field goal gives Notre Dame the lead. The game moves through the first quarter and the snow begins to fall, harder and harder. The turf becomes slippery, visibility falls, and fans huddle for warmth. The Nittany Lions respond after the Irish field goal as Teason Thomas hauls in a 46-yard pass from Kerry Collins. 5 plays later, Richie Anderson dives in for the score. On the extra point attempt, Irish freshman Bobby Taylor leaps to block the kick. Few in the stadium realize just how important this play will be as the afternoon moves toward evening. The second quarter becomes a battle of trench warfare as Notre Dame Stadium is covered with a white quilt of snow. Penn State linebacker Brian Gelsheiser, in a reserve role, will play maybe the game of his life. Gelsheiser nearly intercepts Rick Meyer, but freshman wide receiver Derek Mays wrestles the ball away for a 12-yard gain. The slow-moving drive ends on another Hendrick field goal as the first half ends 6-6. On the second possession of the third quarter, Meyer mixes passes and runs to get the Irish into field goal range. Hendrick is true on his third of the game from 37 yards out. It's 9-6 Notre Dame after 3 quarters. As the final quarter wanes, Penn State moves the ball. It's goal to goal when the Irish defense rises. Richie Anderson is stopped point blank, and Joe Paterno wisely goes for the 3 points. It's back to square one as the field goal is good. The game is tied at 9. With 4:25 left to play, Penn State scores again. Brian O'Neill bursts 13 yards to make it 16-9. The Nittany Lions defense needs only to hold for 1 or maybe 2 possessions, and it will be another win for Penn State at Notre Dame Stadium. No one is more aware of this than Rick Meyer. Will he be remembered as one of the greatest quarterbacks in Irish history, or merely one who came close? The answer comes in a methodical, almost painfully tense drive as the clock, the weather, and the Penn State defense are stacked against the Irish offense. From the Irish 36, Meyer throws to fullback Jerome Bettis, who gets a key block from Todd Norman. Bettis gains 21 to the Penn State 43. Then Meyer hits Ray Griggs for 17 yards to the Penn State 21. 6 plays later, the ball rests on the 3. 25 seconds remain. It is 4th down. Meyer gets one more shot. He fades and feathers the ball over the middle to Bettis, who takes it in for the touchdown. There is no question as to what comes next. In 1987 at Beaver Stadium, Lou Holtz went for the win against the Nittany Lions, but fell short on the 2-point conversion. This day will be different. Meyer drops to pass and looks left. Lake Dawson is open, but only for a moment. Meyer looks again, pumps and lets the ball fly toward the southwest corner of the south end zone. Reggie Brooks extends his 5 feet 8-inch frame to the limit and latches onto the ball. Brooks, a notoriously inconsistent receiver in practice, has made the big play. Meyer and company have come through, but a few more moments of agony remain for Irish fans. A 15-yard penalty called for the crowd spilling onto the field gives Penn State one last shot. But Collins' last pass is incomplete, and the last game of the Notre Dame-Penn State series ends 17-16 Irish.